Hello viewers, welcome to K Diagnostics. Dio here. Today we have a 2015 Chevy Malibu with a 2.5 liter. This car is up here on the lift so that we can replace the front wheel bearings. And the brake pads are worn out and so are the brake rotors. The customer wants me to replace the rotors and the pads too. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna replace the hub assemblies, so the wheel bearing. This is the sealed wheel bearing type, and then we're also gonna replace the rotors and the pad. So I figured it would be fun to bring you guys with me so we can do this. So the first step I'm gonna do is we're gonna remove the tire. So I'm gonna grab my impact gun here, and then we're gonna remove the tire. So I got the tire removed. So now the next step is gonna be removing the brake caliper. And to remove the brake caliper, we have to remove these two bolts right here that hold the caliper onto the caliper bracket. But before we do that, I'm gonna retract the caliper piston first by inserting this screwdriver in the inspection hole. And then once I get a good grip here, then I'm gonna pry. So what this does is pushing the caliper piston inward so that my caliper can free up the pads. So the piston has been retracted. So now I'm gonna remove the caliper bolt. Stand here. Hopefully you guys. Alright, so here comes the brake caliper bolt. I'm just gonna put them right here on the lift arm. Now I'm gonna lift my caliper up and just hold it right here against the strut. So I'm gonna use this bungee cord to hold the caliper up. Alright, right there. So our caliper is not gonna go anywhere, and I can remove the brake pads now. And look at this, guys. These pads are completely worn. Do you see how thick, how thin they are? Let me show you the new one so you can see the difference. So this is the old pad, and here's the new pad. Can you tell the difference by the thickness of the lining here? See there? So the new pad is supposed to look like this. So these pads are completely worn out. Okay, good. And the rotor, oh my goodness. So look at this rotor, guys. I'm gonna give you guys a shot of the rotor. Look, see this? Yeah, so the rotor is dark, the rotor got overheated, and you see the rust? along this friction surface. This is not good. Okay. Alright, so the next step is removing the caliper bracket. The caliper bracket has got two bolts. There's one at the bottom here, another one at the top. So once I take these two bolts off, the caliper bracket will come out. So here comes the caliper bracket right here. So I'm gonna set it here on the side. So now I'm gonna remove this rotor retaining bolt. So I always like to tap on it to shock it a little bit. So here comes our brake rotor. Okay. So the brake rotor is removed. The next step is removing the axle nut. So the axle nut is removed. Alright, so now we are down to the last step, which is removing the hub assembly. The hub assembly's got 3 bolts in the back. I will show you the 3 bolts and then I'm gonna remove them. Alright, so I'm under the car right now. I'm gonna show you the hub assembly bolts. So these here are the bolts that hold the hub assembly onto the steering knuckle. So we have one here. And then there's another one up there. Hopefully you guys can see. There's a bolt right there just above the axle. See that bolt right there above the drive axle? That's the second one. And then the third one is over here. See that? So there's one on this side, another one here, and then a third one up there. You're probably not going to be able to see it. So once I remove these 3 bolts, then our hub assembly will come out. But I'll sit you guys here while I remove those bolts so you can see the bolts that I'm removing. Right, so that's the first one. And then the second one is somewhere up here. Alright, so I got 2 of the hub assembly bolts removed. So there's one left on the right side here. So you guys are not going to be able to see it. I'm going to do it from this angle. Alright, so all the three bolts are removed, and now I'm gonna remove the hub assembly. Now the hub assembly can come out, so I just have to pull it up, and here comes. So this is the splash plate. I'm just gonna sit it aside. Splash plate or splash shield, however you want to call it. And here is our hub assembly. Okay, it's actually pretty noisy. I don't know if you can hear that. Okay, so I'm gonna sit it right here. And I'm gonna clean up this wheel bearing journal here, and then I will install the new one. So this is the ABS sensor reluctor wheel. So while cleaning this, you want to make sure you put it back, because I've seen people forget putting this back, and then when they start driving, the ABS light comes on, and then you have to redo this all over again. So you don't want that. So we're gonna apply a little bit of grease right there. I'm just putting some bearing grease on these drive axle splines. So apply a little bit of grease there. Now just sit this reluctor wheel back. And here is our new hub assembly. Okay, our new sealed hub bearing. Okay, so this is how it's gonna go. Just like that. Right, so you have to make sure the holes on the splash shield are lined up with the holes on the hub bearing. So now I'm going to start inserting the bearing, the hub assembly bolts. Alright, so this one started. So now I'm gonna start the other bolt here. So these are the bolts that I just removed. Those three bolts, those three 18mm bolts that hold the hub assembly on the steering knuckle. Alright, last bolt. Alright, so you have to make sure that your axle is nicely splined into the hub assembly, because you want it to move in freely. You don't want it to bind or anything. So now the next step is putting the axle nut back on. And then tightening it. Alright, the axle nut is tightened. Let's wipe this down. So, what's next, guys? You know it. You guys are so awesome. The next step is putting the rotor back on. Here comes our new brake rotor. So, what I like about these rotors that have a screw that hold them down is it just holds the rotor nice and straight for you, especially when you put the pad on some cars that don't have this bolt. The rotor kind of tilts and then it can be really uncomfortable installing the brake pads. But with this little tiny screw here, it holds the rotor on the hub for you, which is pretty good. There you go. So that's tight. Man, this car is gonna run a lot better once it's all done. So new hub assembly, new brake rotor. Now let's install our, can you guess? What are we installing next? You got it. We are installing the caliper bracket next. So the caliper bracket has got two bolts, like I said. Putting everything back together is pretty much the reverse order of the removal process. So everything we did just backwards. Alright, so I just tightened the caliper bracket bolt. Some of you out there might argue or say, why didn't you torque them? Why didn't you use a torque wrench? You can if you want to. I do have a torque wrench here that I can use, but sometimes a long extension hose or pipe just works as fine. You just have to feel it and not over torque it to break it, but you just have to make sure you don't go too tight. So now the next step is, guess guys, guess, tell me, what's the next step? Of course you knew. The next step is installing the brake pads. So what you see here is brake grease. It's always good to put brake grease on the outer, on the backing plate of the pad, or the outer side of the pad, the metal side, to avoid any squeaking noises. And also you have to make sure that these caliper pins slide easily, so these caliper pins are not frozen. If they were frozen, you had to remove them and make sure you clean them up and lubricate them and work them back and forth like this. Sometimes they're really rusty, really rusted out. They get stuck and you have to remove the whole caliper bracket, or maybe remove the whole caliper sometimes. But these are just fine. Okay, so last step but not least is installing the caliper itself. I'm gonna retract the piston all the way. Now we're just gonna sit the caliper right here. Already, the caliper bolts have been tightened. Now let me get my bungee cord out of here. So what's the next step, guys? What's the next step? We are almost done. There's only one step left and then we'll be good. What is it? Tell me. You know it. The last step is putting the tire back on. I have a torque stick here. This is what I'm going to use to torque the tire. It's actually a 90 foot-pound torque stick. I'm going to use this. Now let's put our tire on right there. And then screw our lug nuts in. Right, so what you do, we want to crisscross them. You don't want to go, what you don't want to do is going one after another like this. You want to crisscross them. So we're going to tighten this, and then this one, and this one, and that one, and this one. Okay, so not all the way. You just push them slightly, and then go to this one right here, and then this one. And then this one, and then this one right here. Alright guys, so that's it. That's how you remove and replace a hub assembly on a 2015 Chevy Malibu with a 2.5 liter. And while we were there, we also replaced the brake rotor and the brake pads. So I hope you liked this video. If you do, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumb down. But if you do, you gotta tell me why, so we can make better videos in the future. Do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, K Diagnostics, If you have any questions, comments, criticism, leave them in the comment box. And while you're down there, don't forget to ring the bell so you can get notified every time I upload a new video. Once again, thanks for watching. See you next time.